Well, let me welcome you to our Independence special program this morning. In, say, the next 1 week, we'll be interrogating different aspects of Nigeria's national life in celebration of the 65th anniversary of Nigeria's independence. My name is Madubuike. Today, I have Professor Ihechukwu Madubuike, former Minister of Health, a solid intellectual, a man who still lives his life within the academic circle, an author of 2-3 books that I know. Maybe I don't know about others. A contributor to a number of international journals, an elder statesman. From Zeke till now, he's been involved. Prof, welcome to our Independence Anniversary Special.
Thank you very much, very much. I'm happy to be here.
Prof, how do you feel at this age? Still enjoying this life? Feeling good?
We have no option. As long as we breathe, we have to enjoy life or manage it, because God knows why He has allowed us to live, despite all the difficulties we have in the country called Nigeria. We are going to celebrate our 65th.
Yes, 65th.
Wonderful. It's a wonderful experience to have. In 1960, probably 65 years ago, I was a student in Calabar at a school founded by the Presbyterians in 1846 by a man called Hope Masterton Waddell. Hope Waddell was a student at junior secondary school in Duke Town. And we were being prepared for independence. Nigerians were being prepared. I was 17 years old then. And I celebrated or marked independence in a place called Gindiri in Jos, very close to Jos. Gindiri Girls Boys Secondary School. I was a 70-year-old guy doing in Gindiri, not in Ihechukwu, where I was born, to celebrate Nigeria's independence. Nigeria made preparations for that celebration, prepared the younger ones, like us. What happened? There were 48 of us gathered together from different parts of the country. 12 from each region, Eastern region, 12, 14, Western region, 12, Northern region, 12. And another 12 from the Boys Brigade in Zaria, who were called together for leadership training. For 6-8 weeks. It used to be done before in the Cameroons. Like a year before then, the Cameroons did it. We taught different kinds of things. The most important thing was to know other Nigerians in that age bracket. We was taken from the secondary school. I didn't know how I was selected. But I just got a letter that I was selected and met other students from different places. We were given different kind of tasks. And our teachers were able to discover our talents. So I was one of those who took part in the debate for the celebration. I took part in the athletics. We competed among ourselves. That was how I was in standard 4, class 4 then, the ultimate class, penultimate class. Take the West African Cambridge School Certificate. So I asked my principal, Why don't you want me to take this exam? He said, we know you will pass. Otherwise, we wouldn't have sent you. So it was the best of the best that was sent out for that. I was one of them. Prepared for independence 5 years ago. It means a lot to me. I've seen a lot. Leadership training. So Nigeria realized that leadership training was important. And that the recruitment process should also be important and should be inclusive or exclusive. Being in the North at that time helped us also to appreciate the problems the Northerners had. Because even then, as we were talking among ourselves, we used to tell the Northerners, you are dragging us back. We told them this independence we are getting now, we should have gotten it in 1957. But you were not ready. We knew that as young people growing up. But we also knew that it was important to take the others along. We formed the new tribe that would drive Nigeria forward, taken back from the British people. So that's what my experience is. I've gone through other trainings in the process, within and outside the country.
Prof, at that time, there were not just expectations, there was hope. There was a feeling of being a citizen of an emerging great nation. And we are being prepared to play a role. All these years, have you seen those expectations materialize? Have you seen those hopes realized? Or have you watched them fade like a morning dew?
You know, the thing about life is that once you give up hope, there's no need to live. Hope springs eternal in the breast of man. That's one thing that nature has given to us. When you're hopeless, the next thing you want to do is to commit suicide. And as Nietzsche said, there are many things to make one want to commit suicide. But hope does that. Nigeria still exists because of the hope. Those expectations that we can form a new tribe of different people that can have one lingua franca. You can't be a nation without a lingua franca, without a new tribe that speaks one language. That one language is not necessarily Igbo or Hausa or Zibi. Nigerians have tried, okay, we'll teach you all the different languages, go and learn them. That will make you a tribe. That I speak English or French, which I studied up to PhD level, doesn't make me a Frenchman. There are other core values that will make a nation, that will make a people a nation. One is good leadership, one is inclusiveness, detribalization, values that drive progress. Values that make you feel you belong, you're a human being. You're being treated as a human being, not as a second-class citizen. That values that will make you want to die for the country. We sang Nigeria, we held their own dear native land. Though tribe and tongues may differ, brotherhood. We learned it 65 years ago. I was quite thrilled when the present head of state changed the old national anthem to the national anthem that the British gave to us, showing us the path to progress, to leave a banner without a stem. That's one of the verses. We have not done that. This present banner has several stems. Because of pollution, because of corruption, because of tribalism, because lowering of standards. The first university we have in Nigeria, University of Ibadan. The University College started in 1949 in Ibadan. What was a university college? By the 1960s, 65 precisely, it was rated among the first 4 in the Commonwealth. Today is nowhere rated. And you ask yourself, why? Because it attracted the best and the brightest in the country. It did. It also attracted people from other parts of the world. A university cannot be a university when it becomes a glorified tribal community environment. No, it's not a university. We're talking about universities and their contributions to nation building. Ibadan was not like that until tribalism came in. University of Lagos was not like that until tribalism came in. And what tribalism does is to disable capacities, not to nurture them. Groupiness, as Sowell would say in his book, doesn't foster inclusiveness, which is the soul of progress, so that you can tap from different talents. Nigeria is not tapping from different talents. That's why it is where it is. You mentioned Singapore. You mentioned South Korea. Yeah, by 1960, Nigeria was at the same level. At least a certain part of Nigeria was regarded as one of the fastest developing in the world, along with South Korea, along with Singapore. The leadership made all the difference between us, where they are now, and where we are. The one was trending. Was it trending in Oxford or Cambridge? First class bread. They didn't go for mediocre. South Korea, till today, has an unbounding passion for education. They don't go for second hand. Go and read their book, one of the books written by one of their intellectuals called The Bad Samaritans, where that Oxford-trained professor is saying that in South Korea, it's not IMF that made Korea to be what South Korea to be what they are. But they have this culture of satisfaction, of wanting to be the best in them before others came, before IMF came. We have that in Nigeria. There's a book I wrote, I've written about 10 books now, called The Lugadian Hubris. That's the title of that book, The Lugadian Hubris. I don't think I've seen it.
I have.
Have you?
Yes, sir.
Fine. That hubris, that conundrum is still with us. Lugard in 1914 imported all the negativities in Britain, brought both direct and indirect rules into the country, and named us, gave us a name that we have refused to change. We refused to change it. It led that imbalanced federation that is still imbalanced. And we're not ready to change it. Because it profits those who send Lugard here, and the cronies that are working for them. The Nigerian state is not working for Nigerians, fortunately. And until the Nigerian state works for Nigeria, we will continue to be where we are, in the doldrums. We say we are trying to imitate them. We are not imitating them. They solve their own problems. Okay? When Russia had its own problems, they solved it their own way. Czechoslovakia had their own problems. They weren't saying, oh, you are a tribe, well, you are 20 million, you are 10 million. You don't form a nation based on population. You form a nation based on a number of criteria. One of it may be population. There are many countries that have about 4 million, less than 4 million people in their countries. They have their seats. They will speak at hunger. But Nigerians don't want to think properly. Because it's an estate set up on the wrong footing. In French, we say, le Nigeria est mal parti. That's on the wrong foot. And we have not made enough effort.
Prof,
to create our own Nigeria.
Let me cite two issues raised.
Yes.
When at age 17, when you were being selected for that pre-independence leadership training in Plateau State, today's Plateau State in Nigeria, you were selected in consideration of two things. One, inclusiveness. Two, you just said you don't even know who put you there. In other words, you were selected because you merited to go there. That's one thing you said this morning. The second is that University of Ibadan, University College, was an aggregation of some of the brightest minds, students. And you were not admitted there. You didn't go to teach there based on your clan, but because you merited to be there. Somehow, this inclusiveness in merit is eluding Nigeria, even though we started with it. Can you imagine where we sidestepped, where we took the wrong route, where we missed it? Because if we began with that value, and something totally the opposite is driving the nation today, we must have forgotten our bag somewhere. Why did we forget that bag?
Where did we forget that bag? The first question is, did we really imbibe those values that make a nation a nation? Or were we just going along? Now, I remember some people said that Nigeria was handed its independence on a plateau of gold. Okay? Britain probably was tired of trying to manage Nigerians the way they were doing. And said, okay, fine, let's give them independence in independence. That's what some people call it. Yeah, we'll step aside, but we'll also work like a marionette and control what is going on in that country. That was why when we had our first explosion, form of a civil war, they came back with their full regalia. And other countries that wanted to help solve the problem, they stopped them, like the US. They have not left Nigeria. Nigeria is just like a market for the colonialists. And until that hubris is out, that's the point I made in my book, Nigeria and the Lugarian Hubris. Until that hubris is removed by Nigerians themselves, we know the right thing to do. We will refuse to do it. We don't want to do it because it benefits the estate managers and their cronies in Nigeria. Look, the other day we're talking about our our refineries. Refineries that were working. We spent billions to repair them. Port Harcourt one, the Warri one. And today they're not producing anything. Is it the Ihechukwu industry that is supposed to drive productivity, industrialization, given to the Russians? I used to drive through past their huge estate. Now, there's nothing working there. Now tell me. Okay, so some politicians talk about Nigeria not being productive. IMF comes in every day with its own recipe. Sometimes I ask myself whether these recipes are meant to make Nigeria independent, productive or not. Okojiwala in one of her books talked about reforming the irreformables. He is a big egghead in World Bank and IMF. They are the enforcers of colonialism. In his book, The Bad Samaritans, the author is from South Korea, said that what the IMF is doing is to stop the emerging powers from doing what the emerged powers did to be where they are. Capitalism. That's what they're doing. But Korea was wise. While they are taking those pills, they're also looking at their own culture. What makes them different? Same with Japan. In Japan, they don't ask you where you work, they ask you what you do. What do you do? What can you produce? Japanese produced their pencils and they were not writing well. They insisted that they would write with those pens. In Nigeria, they will change them. Now in Nigeria, they will say, okay, this pencil is not well, let's go and import.
What a contract.
Let's give contract to somebody, let them go and import. No, not Japan. Japanese students continued working with them. I remember when we were growing up, they used to talk to us about occupied Japan. That nothing from Japan is good. When I was Minister of Education, I set up a special unit to evaluate degrees from India. That's 40 years ago. Because we thought that Indian degrees were not good. They had so many of them. They had Indian teachers. I was taught by an Indian teacher in Nigeria. In how many universities in Nigeria, public and private, will you go and see an outsider who is not a Nigerian? No, how many? They won't even allow you to teach maybe in a university in Ilorin. Okay, I'm going too far. Maybe even in Enugu. That's how bad we are.
Prof, I want to interject here.
Okay.
And allow me, please, to pointedly accuse you.
Okay.
You belong to the intellectual family. You've been an academic, an intellectual, and a thinker virtually all your life. Check the examples we have considered this morning. Korea, Singapore, Japan, even United Kingdom and US, even Germany, France, changes have been wrought by the distillation of the intellectual community of the challenges confronting society and posting them on the faces of the ordinary people and telling them this will do us in unless we change them. Your constituency, the thinkers and intellectuals, have been here, available to the society, watching progressively the country missing its way and missing its mark. And you are not able to synthesize our elements as an intellectual community and tell us that we're heading for Hades until we are found sitting beside Satan, all of us burning in hell. So, Prof,
yes,
are you leaving us with Satan in hell? Or why did your community fail to draw us back? Are you also disunited yourselves?
Disunited. Well, the intellectual class have two categorizations. All right? There is the public intellectual, people like us. There is the sit-down-look intellectual. There is also the establishment intellectuals, those of them that work with government. Honorable Minister, as you please. They are also intellectuals, those who, the permanent governance in Nigeria are manned by intellectuals, the civil servants. By intellectuals, they are the first government we have. Politicians will come and go, but they remain. Remember that one of the things that truncated peace during the Civil War, after they had agreed, politicians had agreed among themselves on how to reset Nigeria. When they came back, the establishment intellectuals, the super permanent secretaries, said no. And the military, who have no idea of how to run a nation, listened to them. That spoiled the Abuja conference. Forget what any other person is saying. That's what agreed with Abuja conference, which we agreed on how to have a new federation, a new Nigeria. That's also, remember that set of intellectuals. All right? Then there is the public intellectuals, people who speak truth to power, without being afraid, in the public interest. That's what they're called, public interest. Then there are the sit-down-look intellectuals. They exist. You find them in our universities, and so on and so forth. Okay, they're appointed by the national elite. Politicians, the businessmen, they do their biddings. So few of us who are in the public domain, I mean, who said this is not correct. I was a minister of education. We had an agreement on what to do, how to run the government. When that government refused to do that, some of us resigned. I resigned as a minister of cabinet rank. Not all of us resigned because I had another address. I didn't think I could die being a politician, being a minister. I had to go to where my calling was, where I can speak and act with free conscience. We're talking about some intellectuals backstage. I didn't say anything. They have capitulated when the state in a state capture, when the country is in a state capture. You capture them. Those intellectuals can no longer speak. And when public intellectuals can no longer speak, there is danger. And I have said so openly, talking about some of them. So most of the country is in a state capture. The state has taken everything. Strategically, the members of the National Assembly cannot talk. The 9th and the 10th Assembly cannot talk. They become a department, as it were, of the executive. Ditto for the judiciary. Can take some important matters. We're talking about state police now. Why can't we have state police? Because we are afraid of the politicians. That's the only reason. Oh, the politicians will use it too. But the politicians will come and go, the state will stay. That's what I wrote for, state police. This country, is it a failed state? Is it a weak state? Is it a banana republic that will take you to that state that you're talking about, to the hell? Are we already in hell? Maybe some people are. And that's why we are negotiating with criminals. Where is independence? Where is autonomy? Because part of the characteristics of a failed state is inability to govern. When you are sharing your sovereignty with people you should not share your sovereignty with. You are not negotiating with them. They cover some areas of the country. People pay taxes to them to be able to go to their farm fields. It's happening at 65, Nigeria at 65. What kind of independence is that? And many people don't talk about it. When you talk about it, they say, oh, it's not government that is negotiating, it's the villagers. The villagers have an agreement with you. Take care of us, protect us, and we'll give you whatever we have. We are not doing it. When you cannot protect the people, how can you say you are independent? Is that what we are celebrating? Is that what you are going to celebrate a couple of days from now? No, we have to tell ourselves the truth. We are lucky to be where we are, but we must do more to make nice. And we know the faults: corruption, inability to produce, a rentier economy where we just believe in rents, whatever, and everybody's in it. It fits the politician very well. Collect rent, don't work hard. A National Assembly that is over-bloated, that works part-time and don't want to accept that they're working part-time. 180 days, oh, weren't you able to do that? What in their constitution? No. We probably did well first few years of independence because we didn't have this kind of National Assembly. The Prime Minister was there, the opposition was there, and you accounted to the people in the parliament. You were just first among equal as Prime Minister. Yeah? And then the people who came later to topple the government in 1966 were not prepared to rule, were not taught how to rule. They brought in corruption, nepotism, cronyism, and the rest of them. That's part of our problem. That's part of the tragedy. So in my latest book, I'm asking, is Nigeria a weak state, a failed state, or a failing state? And I gave the criteria for all this. When you are unable to protect the citizens, which is one of the fundamentals of our Constitution, protection of life and property. When you have failed to do this, you are failing. No matter what else you are doing.
Prof, do you think our failure is the consequence of the model of democracy we have just suddenly decided to adopt? Because you said in the few years after independence, we practiced the parliamentary democracy. You said the prime minister was there, accounting to the members. You seem to say that that looked more like what it should be. But then presidential democracy we are practicing. Do you think the challenge we have now is the model?
Model is part of it. That's why many of us had said that we should go back to the 1963 model, of governance. Many elders who saw it, we let Adebanjo, we let Clark, even Nnamdi Azikiwe said we should go to parliamentary system. It worked better. It has its own faults. All right? But at least it worked better. We were able to make some progress. An Igbo man could go to Lagos and build a house. An Igbo man could go to Ibadan and become the vice chancellor, and so on and so on. It was that model that made it possible. Now it's no longer possible. Streets that are named after some great Nigerians in Lagos are being changed. And somebody is there watching, saying nothing. That's terrible disparity. The way to go back. That's not the way to develop. What your forefathers have worked for your forefathers, they will no longer work. Not fair enough. You don't do that even in the United States of America. Today somebody was telling us where Trump came from in Germany. His parents came from Germany. He's today talking about immigration and so on and so forth. But he has achieved the American dream. What is the Nigerian dream? What's the vision? Where does Nigeria want to be in the next 10, 15 years? In this way? One step forward, one step backwards. You say you removed fuel subsidy, right? You rebase the indices for determining progress every day, GDP. And you are happy that the Naira is floating at 1,500 today, maybe, when you inherited it at 400, 470. And you think you're making progress. And we should be clapping for you. Something is wrong with everybody that thinks in that way, and that is the way to progress. And a bag of rice. Ask the women who
costs more than the minimum wage.
Pay me 70,000. I know the people I live here with. 70,000 is no money to them. And you are saying, oh, we're doing well. The inflation has stopped. Borrow, you can borrow with 27%, MPR. And they have reduced the cost of borrowing money. And you are owing. You say your foreign reserve has increased. You include the amount you have to pay to World Bank, to IMF, even to local borrowers, lenders. So whom are you deceiving? Until you take us back to where I remember Bonnie M singing, how can we sing a beautiful song in a foreign land? Take us back where you brought us. We want to go back to Zion. That Zion, you say, which you think is bad. IMF told you, no, do this, do this. Even an IMF is telling you, no, you must protect the underserved. IMF, that is giving you the recipe. That is an enforcer for capitalists. Bretton Woods, those who made it. economists. Say, look, see the underserved, take care of them. So they can buy bread or akara, whatever they eat. No. Cardoso and his group, they keep on rebasing. Every day they rebase. Oh, our GDP has grown. Inflation has dropped. How does it affect the keke driver? The woman selling oba or whatever he sells in the East or in Wuse market. These are the real issues that confront Nigeria at 65. And I don't know what we're going to be celebrating.
Prof, at 65, Nigeria is still debating currently whether to create more states or not. That's a very strident argument that, in fact, Nigeria should reduce the number of states it has. Now, there are those who are insisting that more states means equity, justice. The EFCC and ICPC have publicly said that states are centers of corruption, mismanagement of public resources. Pardon me, sir, to use language that is not television. They are centers of theft. So the argument is, if you create more states, you multiply this number of bad conduct. But somebody says, don't make the analysis because of instant situation. There could be a pharaoh who is understanding, who may manage Egypt better. A good governor may come around and wouldn't be stealing money. Do we need more states in your reckoning? Or do we need to collapse the states we have?
It's difficult to take something from somebody once you've given it to him. I must consider that. But who is EFCC and ICPC? How uncorrupt are they? These are institutions that are set up by corrupt people too, by a corrupt state. He that comes to equity must come with clean hands. I don't think it is the duty of those people to determine whether we should have more states or collapse them. All right, so you give immunity to governors for a period of time. They steal all the money. And when they come out, what do? How many of them are in prison? What is the consequence for corruption? Now, what is the consequence? How many politicians, governors, how many have we produced? 36 of them when they come out after 8 years or 4 years. Since you know they are corrupt and are running centers of corruption, instead of catching those who are corrupt, you want to dismantle the states, built for the people, by the people, under given conditions that are democratic. States are not created to avoid corruption. States are created to ensure equity, progress, and development. States are not centers of corruption, they are centers of development. And if there is an aberration, you correct it. I was in the Jonathan's Constitutional Conference, and we agreed on parity of states all over the country. There's no reason why some states should be having 7. I mean, some zones should be having 7 states, and others like my zone is 75. How are you distributing the money? Getting the money from all of us. Why don't you share them equally? Every citizen of Nigeria is equal to the other. None is more equal than the other. There's no reason why some states should be more equal than the other. If you go to the United States, you have California, Southern California, and so on and so forth. You have Delaware, small in population, but equal in rights. We all should have equal rights. You don't collapse states to do what? to stop corruption? No. Why is everybody running to the center? What they call the center. Why? Because it has more money to share and therefore more opportunity to loot and be corrupt. I told one of my governors to start a refinery. Well, he told me, no, refinery is best started by the private sector. And the NNPC is not making money. I said, no, NNPC is making money. Saudi Arabia, Aramco is making money. The one in Brazil is making money. The Russia is making money. China is making money for petrol. They're state controlled. Why is it that anything state controlled in Nigeria doesn't work? Why do you think the private sector will do better? NNPC makes a lot of money, but how much does it declare to the people? Corruption kills. That's our problem. Well, at 65, we must confront that monster called corruption.
Let us confront.
Not only corruption,
yes.
Not just moral corruption, it's physical corruption, it's the corruption of the mind. That's where it starts. Train the people. You know, is it in China or where if you are caught corrupt, they kill you?
That's what I was going to, Prof. Let us confront the corruption. Do you think that we are kid gloving with it and therefore need to be more draconian? And let me be specific. Do you think a corrupt politician, a corrupt Nigerian should be shot, hanged?
It's not easy to take a life. There was a time we were shooting people because they were caught with drugs, right? That has not stopped drug trafficking. If anything, it has increased. Shooting politicians will not stop corruption.
What do we do?
We have to do what others are doing.
And that is China kills you. Indonesia hangs you. Saudi Arabia beheads you.
We should, before we get to that, change our institutions. These institutions will stop, will eliminate, will reduce at least corrupt practices. You see, you elect politicians and you allow these institutions that are corrupt to exist. If you change politicians without changing the institutions, they will continue to practice what that institution allows.
No, Prof, yes. Explain to me. I want to understand.
No, the institutions that we have in Nigeria
yes.
are not working. We are not practicing democracy the way it is defined or it was defined.
Because Prof,
we are not,
because
we
this is
borrowed
a system being also run by corrupt people who are not afraid of being going to jail. So if we kill them, hang them, they won't be there to continue perpetuating what they are doing.
No, but
we leave them to go
the
free.
The institution is there. That's why they
populated by the same people.
No, that's why you change them. You change the institution when you change them. If you don't change the institution, they will continue to do what they do. Look at, take INEC for instance. INEC will not change as long as you have not changed the way they operate, the manner they operate, and there is consequence if they don't do the right thing.
I just recommend the consequence. And that consequence is an eye of corruption, a lost eye in hell.
My bad.
Prof, sir.
I don't understand that. That's one. What is it? What do you mean?
Because this seems to be the biggest drag on the emergence of a Nigerian nation.
The consequence?
This being the biggest drag on the development of this country.
Yes.
And we cannot be treating it in euphemisms. Because it is the death nail on Nigeria's progress. How do we remove this nail and let Nigeria breathe?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. You have to change the status quo.
Okay.
You have to change the system of governance.
Prof, I don't want to sound too pessimistic on this beautiful day we are celebrating Nigeria 65.
No, it's not beautiful at all.
There are young people who are waving the flag this morning. There are Nigerians who want to get out and have a smile, family that want to feel good.
Yes.
You said the moment hope is lost, it is a bad time for anybody or any society.
When you lose hope, you want to die.
So, Prof, let me just tell me, in celebrating Nigeria 65, what is there for us to celebrate? We must celebrate war. Can you see some lining, some ray of the sun in the horizon? We must have a reason to at least drink a glass of champagne today for this country, celebrating this country.
Well, one thing you must realize that we are not all the same. There are individual differences. And people see things from different optics. You won't stop them. Those who want to drink, to drown their sorrows, will drink. You won't stop them from drinking. The children who are waving because they are told there is hope. I saw hope 65 years ago when I was 17. I believed in it. What I saw, what I believed in, is no longer there. 65 years, and I know why it is no longer there. And I've tried in different fora, in my books, as a lecturer, as an administrator, to make a change. Say that this is the way we should go. Disparity is wrong. That accusing certain people of terrorism when they're not terrorists is wrong. That destroying the fabrics of unity by saying, oh, you can't build here because you come from there is wrong. When I can go to America and build. When I can be employed as a professor in distinguished universities abroad, I cannot be here. There are things I learned and I tried to put them in practice when I was in power. When I started universities of science and technology and got one built in Owerri, I appointed a non-Igbo as a vice chancellor. I appointed another person, a non-Igbo, to be in charge of the Open University of Nigeria. From the University of Ibadan, I learned those virtues as a university graduate abroad, where I also taught. When I tell people, so and so on and so forth, there should be no inbreeding. The school I got my PhD from, I graduated and started teaching as an assistant professor even before I got my PhD, State University of New York. As soon as I got my PhD, they said, leave. We don't encourage inbreeding. I left for Ohio State University, Columbus, where people like Maforis, Madubuike went to school. Education is very important. Politicizing it is killing education. That's why you bring out people, okay, see what happened in the last JAMB examination. See what happens in our election. When it pleases them, they will tell you there is a hitch somewhere to favor some people who should not be where they are. That's our problem. We are not speaking with one tongue. We don't have a tribe called Nigerians. We have tribes with different visions, worldviews. I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want to talk about religion. They are divisive. But in countries that progress, they manage them. Managing diversity is part of Nigeria's problem. Probably the greatest problem we have. can manage diversity, corruption will be reduced. If we manage diversity, discriminations will reduce. Phobias, we have many phobias. Ethnic phobias, religious phobias will reduce. We need to set up institutions that correct these things, not institutions that multiply them. The present institutions we have.
Prof, I just, because my producer says, look, there's a question you said you were going to ask, and you have only 2 minutes. Prof, you were part of the 2014 National Conference under President Goodluck Jonathan. Can you go through the outcome of that conference in your mind? Do you think it is a document that, if visited sincerely, will begin to address all the issues we have conversed on this morning? The negative issues, the recommendations of that conference, could they have addressed some of these issues fundamentally?
I think it could have been non-implementation of those recommendations, non-implementation by a leadership that lacked courage to implement them. One of the fault lines of nation building. Because those decisions were arrived at without votes. They were arrived at about 670 of them or so were arrived at without votes, by consensus, by broad-based Nigerians, experienced. Market women were there, religious leaders were there, political leaders were there, businessmen, lawyers, professionals, same people in. You know, that would have been a new beginning for Nigeria. I was also part of the constitutional conference set by Abacha, when he told us there was no go area, and we produced a document. What should have been Nigerians' ground, okay? Devolution of powers, political parties, creation of new states, and so on and so forth. We did and submitted to him before he died. Saw what happened when he died and the constitution we're practicing now. The hue and cry following the 1979 constitution. We brought in a democracy. We are supposed to be government by the people, for the people. We did not, that's not the constitution I took part in producing, which we handed to Abacha. All right, at my age, I have to speak the truth. It's not it. And for somebody to go and change it and call it the product of the people is a fraud. It's fraudulent. And that's why we keep on patching it. There's a limit. You cannot patch a tongue cloth. You produce a new one. We need a new constitution.
Thank you very much. We need a new constitution. That is from Professor Ihechukwu Madubuike, former Minister of Education. A man who's been administered the media, by the way. You know that I call myself an elder statesman. You can see now that the grandfather of the statesman is here. So what am I now? I'm a boy. From the time of Physique of Africa till now, it's a long period of experience. That is the fountain from which we've drunk this morning. All I can do is to please beg him to allow me say, happy birthday, Nigeria. There is hope.
Yes, there's hope.
Let's thank Professor Madubuike for coming to our program. Prof, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Mwabo Zenjoka. The conversation continues. Thank you for investing your time with us. Happy birthday. and enjoy yourself.